Hello and welcome to the Grouphead service tutorial for the Cremina. In this tutorial we will show you how to take the Grouphead apart, clean it and change the gaskets. This process is the same for all Cremina models with the manual lever. First, let's take a look at what we need. For spare parts, we need the gasket set number 250-406, which comes in a little plastic bag with a drawing of the placement of the gaskets and the parts inside. The following parts are included in this gasket set: the silicone Grouphead gaskets in red, two larger V gaskets for the piston, one smaller V gasket for the piston rod, and a mild isolator gasket that sits between the boiler and the Grouphead. Also included are 4 Circlips for the fork and 1 clip for the piston rod gasket. We also use the assembly jig 240-124, which is in front of me, to put in the gasket. This helps prevent damages to the gaskets. We also need the following normal tools: a 5 and a 4 mm hex key, the 5 mm is in orange and the 4 mm is in yellow, Circlip pliers size 0/1, a 14 and a 17 mm wrench, needle nose pliers, a plastic hammer, and a flathead screwdriver, probably size 2 or 3. For lubrication for the gaskets, we use Molykote 111 compound, and to secure the screws and making them watertight, we use Loctite 542. With all the tools ready, we start disassembling the group.
First, remove the portafilter and also the lever. After that, we start by removing the 4 screws that are visible now to remove the Grouphead fully from the rest of the body of the machine. With the last screw, we take especially care and hold the Grouphead so it doesn't fall off while we undo the last screw and loosen it. Sometimes it can stick a little bit, so we pull it down. Then we place the Grouphead on a towel or some sort of soft surface to prevent scratches, and start by removing the top nut with the 14 mm wrench. And after that, we use the 17 mm wrench to remove the bottom nut. With the Circlip pliers, we start removing the Circlips from the side. We slide the pliers in to the opening and then push it slightly outwards, but not too far so we don't overstretch the ring. With the first 2 clips removed, we can move the lever a little bit and push the pins out to the side. Please be aware that there are small washers in between that can fall out. We will place them by the side as soon as they fall out. If the pin is a little bit stubborn, we can wiggle it around, or we can use a small prying tool to push it out. Then we remove the last 2 clips from the pins. On the back there is also this steel roller. This is also to be removed. and then we flip the group head upside down and try pushing out the gasket. This is not every time possible. This time we take the flathead screwdriver and pry in and cut through the gasket. Then we can pull out the gasket. The gasket in this case is damaged, so it cannot be reused. With the gasket removed, we can push out the shower screen, and the piston is also now free to move, and we can push it from the top a little bit and remove it fully. With the piston removed, we now can take a closer look inside. You can see here two small wires. These two we have to push together to remove the clip. The clip holds the upper gasket in place. After that, we rotate the group again and push the gaskets out with a flathead screwdriver, just by running it on the side wall of the bore. It already has fallen out. Put the group head aside, and here you can see the gasket and his retaining disc. Now we move on to the piston, where we still have to remove the two V gaskets that hold the piston sealed against the walls. For this we use the flathead screwdriver, running it from the middle underneath the gasket, lifting it up and over the end. There is a little bit force needed, and it's important to not scratch the surfaces too much while doing this. Now, to take the last parts apart, we run in our 5mm hex key and use the 4mm hex key to loosen the screw in the middle that holds the piston rod to the piston. We remove the screw fully and try to slip out the piston rod. It can be stuck sometimes, so you can use a small prying tool again to push from the middle, and even use a hammer on the bottom of the hole to knock it out. After it has slid out of its hole, we can remove it fully, and we have all the parts.
With all parts taken apart, we now discard the gaskets and the clips, and then clean the rest of the parts. For this you can use soap, Cafiza, or any other degreasing agent that is used in coffee machines usually. Make sure that the surfaces are clean and don't have any coffee residue on it, and especially that the inside surface of the group head is clean and smooth. You can have build-up inside. This you can mostly remove with Cafiza, or if it's some minerals build-up, then you can use these as highly diluted solution of descaler to loosen up these residues. As soon as you are finished with cleaning all parts, we can start assembling everything again.
First we unpack the gasket set, and we also keep the little diagram by the side so we can reference it later. It's always good to have the gaskets lined up so you can see what you still need to put in and what is already taken care of. We start with the piston, so the reverse order where we started. This time we use the cone from the assembly jig, and we start by lubricating it so the gasket can glide easily over it. We will later on also use the normal manual method without the cone. So we put the cone on top, we lubricate the gasket, then we place it with the open side upwards onto the cone and pushing it all the way down. This time it's not perfectly in place. Sometimes you have to push it a little bit in. We lubricate the same amount on the second gasket, and now we push it over manually. For this, you seat it on the one side and pull it over the whole piston. You can see there is quite a little bit of force needed to do this. After that, we have a look if everything is seated correctly, so the gasket doesn't bulge up if it's not seated. The piston rod goes back into the hole. Then we apply a little bit of Loctite to the screw. We make a small bead so the countersunk surface of the head also has a little bit of Loctite on it, so it seals tightly against the piston head. To fully tighten the piston rod, we use the same trick as before, with the larger hex key in the hole to get a little bit of leverage. We put the piston for now aside and start focusing on the group head itself. We will lubricate the inside surfaces, so the gaskets are always lubricated when they move from top to bottom, if what they do in every coffee that you make. Now we take the small V gasket and also lubricate it and prepare it to put inside of the group. For this, we also put the open side towards us, so to the inside of the group head, and push it into the hole. Then we take the washer and flip it with the ridged side downwards, facing the gasket, so the smooth side faces up inside the hole. And lastly, we take the clip and push it also inside its groove underneath. This is best done by hand and without any tool. And here you can see how it's seated correctly. With the group ready, we start preparing the piston to be inserted. We lubricate the piston rod and put the cap to cover the threads on top. You can also use electrical tape to cover these threads to insert it and not damage the gasket. Then we take our guidance tool and also lubricate it as any tools. Then we put it with the side that has a ridge inside the group head. Please make sure that you sit it fully inside. You can feel for a gap. Then we first line up the piston rod and then push everything in. With the piston in, we can remove the cap or the electrical tape, whichever you used, and then we can remove the tool. Sometimes, like this time, it gets stuck and you can pry it a little bit away, but be careful to not damage the chrome. Now we move the piston to the correct position, so the hole is lined up with the slits on the side and with the oval slit on the back side, so the fork is in the horizontal position when we assemble it. This makes it a little bit easier. The fork has a chamfered side in its slit, and there you have the smaller side facing the top and the chamfer facing towards the bottom. With a little bit of mollycut, we stick in the two little rollers on the side, and then we slide the fork over them. With everything placed, we insert the first pin inside the hole and assemble it with the new clip. Here also be careful to not overstretch them and make sure they are seated correctly, because they should move freely after they are seated. Then we move on to the back, and here we lubricate the roller and put it into the oval hole all the way to the back. That's where the position of the fork is important, and the piston. Then we stick the two black washers to the side, also with mollycut, so they stick a little bit. This makes us a little bit easier to position everything and then to insert the pin. Sometimes one washer moves a little bit, but you can position it with a small screwdriver. And then the last clip goes on. If it's a little bit tight, you can just push it over rather than scratching the fork. Now we put on the two nuts on top, first the 17mm nut, then the 14mm nut. And we now are all ready to the last part. We install the Grouphead gasket with the chamfer towards the group. We also lubricate it a little bit so it slides in a little bit easier. The tool has a ridge where you can insert the shower screen with the gasket, so it's propped up and so you can push it in as straight as possible. If some bits from the gasket are shaved off, that's not a big issue as long as these are not big chunks, and you can just pull it out, usually with a small screwdriver. The last part is to clean the mating surface from the Grouphead to the boiler. You can use a screwdriver, a razor blade, or anything else that scrapes it off, and also use some cleaning agent to remove the residue that is left on there. If it's not perfectly clean, it's not a big issue, it just has to be a smooth surface. Then we put in the gasket and we align everything with the screws from the Grouphead. For the screws, we also use a little bit of Loctite and we tighten them in a cross pattern. So this means First top right, then bottom left, top left and bottom right. This way the group head gets tightened straight onto the group head, to the boiler.
After servicing, if you have put back the group head onto your Cremina, heat it up, check for leaks, and then re-tighten the screws again in a cross pattern. This ensures that the gasket that compresses a little bit is really tight. Otherwise, it could start to leak after a cool down or another heating cycle. We hope this video was helpful with enough details to service the Cremina by yourself. And if you have any other suggestions, you can leave it in the comments or write us an email as usual. Thank you.